Hey there everybody, Sage Apopam here, founder of the School of Evolutionary Herbalism. And today I want to talk about some critical turning points that all of us face as herbalists when we're walking the plant path. And this is the subject of developing your competence as well as your confidence as an herbalist. You know, if there's one thing that I've realized over the last over 10 years of being an herbalist myself, as well as interacting with a lot of beginner, intermediate, and advanced herbalists all across the world, is that we all come against these roadblocks in our plant path. Things that are holding us back from reaching that next level in our practice of herbal medicine. And what I've come to realize is that it really ultimately distills down to these two things of confidence and competence. And I believe this is critically important for all of us to consider and to think about on our plant path, because let's face it, people need you. Right? There's someone out there in the world that needs help, and you have the ability to provide them with the help that they need. Whether that's something really simple like treating a cough or a basic urinary tract infection, or someone's having a hard time sleeping at night, to maybe more serious chronic conditions like irritable bowel syndrome or chronic food allergies, or maybe someone needs support in their psychological and emotional health. Maybe someone's trying to break through to their next level of their own spiritual development. And the whole premise of evolutionary herbalism is that we as herbalists have the ability to support people on all levels of their health and well-being. So you're needed, right? And I think it's important for us to take a step back outside of our own lives and look at the bigger picture of the world right now, which is in chaos, right? And I think it's becoming more and more apparent every day how much healing is needed out there in the world. And I believe, and I'm sure that you do too if you're here with me, that the potency and power of medicinal plants have the ability to provide this deeper level of healing that people are seeking out there in the world, or that they need and don't even realize that they need it. So the point is that you're needed. And that brings us to what's holding you back, right? What's holding you back from being out there and being of service to your family, your friends, your coworkers, your community, or your clientele, your patients, if you're working in a clinical practice. There's a lot of scales to being an herbalist, but I think no matter what scale you're at, whether just using herbs for yourself or your close relatives, or whether you're working in a clinic, it's like, what's holding you back from reaching that next level in your work with medicinal plants? And I think this ultimately comes back to breaking through those things that are preventing you from reaching that next level, which I ultimately have distilled down to confidence and competence. So I want to talk about this a little bit today, because ultimately, as herbalists, we want to be of service. We're healers. We want to be of service to the world, and we want to make this world a better place, not just for ourselves, not just for our future generations, but for the earth itself, for Gaia. And the things that are holding us back, ultimately, those are kind of our own personal internal struggles that we deal with. You know, I was just at a conference a few weeks ago, and the speaker was talking a lot about this concept of what he called your inner game, right? It's like your inner psychology and emotions and how those affect your outer game or your performance out there in the world, how you're representing yourself out in the world. And if we don't have that inner side of our life fine-tuned and dialed in, i.e. your confidence and competence, then it's going to be really hard for the outer work that you do in this world to be of integrity and to reach the greatest levels that are possible for you. So I believe this all really comes down to starting off with building your competence as an herbalist, right? And they say, in psychology that confidence and competence are like a feedback loop on one another, right? That as you develop more competence, as you have a deeper level of understanding of the fundamental principles and practices of holistic herbal medicine, that you have the know-how, you have the knowledge, you have the understanding, you have the wisdom that will give you the confidence to make yourself available to help someone, right? And if you don't have that competence, it's hard to be very confident. And conversely, as your confidence grows, you start to take on maybe more challenging cases, or you're more open to try to help someone that maybe is outside your comfort zone a little bit. Maybe they come to you with a problem that you've never treated before, you've never even heard of before, but because you have faith and belief and trust in the herbal medicines that you work with, that you're gonna be willing to stretch your competence level to the next stage. And so confidence and competence kind of feed back on one another. And one thing I've noticed is that if there's one thing that holds an herbalist back from helping people, it's they don't feel confident in themselves, right? Maybe they feel like they need to take another workshop or read another book or do another online program, or they need to do whatever it is they need to do. They just feel like this not enough feeling inside, and that's holding them back from being of service. So I want to talk a little bit about some simple ways that you can develop your confidence and competence as an herbalist. So let's start about with competence, right? What are the things that you can do to become more knowledgeable and more strategic in your practice of herbal medicine? Well, the first thing is that obviously you got to know your remedies, right? I mean, the foundation of herbal medicine is really having a solid understanding of a broad spectrum of plant medicines, right? And I always say it's better to know a small handful of remedies with depth and with precision, and with you really know those herbs inside and out, rather than knowing 500 herbs kind of superficially, right? And I think for most of us, it's like that or the way we relate to people too, right? I mean, I think most people would much rather have 5 to 10 really tight, close friends that they have deep levels of intimacy and trust and connection with than 100 Facebook friends, right, that you don't even know, and you can only, like the relationship just kind of skims the surface. The same is true with your plants. And so the first step in developing your competence as an herbalist is to find those remedies that really call to you, those plants that really speak to you, those plants that you find just really interesting, right? And to really dig in and get to know those plants holistically, right? Not just knowing what types of symptoms they're good for, but really understanding all the various ways they relate to the human organism. On a physiological level, their actions and what types of organ systems and tissues they have an affinity for, how they shift the ecological status of the body to their psychological and spiritual properties as well. So really knowing 20 to 30 herbs, well-selected herbs that are going to cover a broad spectrum of organ systems and tissue states and different parts of the body, really selecting those 20 to 30 plants very intelligently can give you a very solid foundation and really give you most of the tools that you need to treat a wide range of common acute symptoms that people come to the herbalist struggling with. So you got to know your remedies holistically. The second thing that you need to develop your competence as an herbalist is knowing how to work with people. And I think this is a commonly overlooked element of plant medicine, right? We get so focused on the herbs and the medicine making and all the aspects with the plants, right? Obviously, we're herbalists, so we love plants. But the other side of the herbal medicine equation is the people that we give the plants to. So you really have to learn how to work with people, right? How to do a good intake, how to ask the right questions, how to assess what's going on in their body, right? Where is the root of the issue that they're facing, their primary complaint? And being able to get down to that root cause within the tissues, within the organ systems, potentially even within the psyche and within the soul. So we have to develop skills in terms of how to interface with human beings so that we can get all of the information that we need to get in order to determine what plants are going to be most beneficial for them. Because to me, the herbalist is a bridge between the human and the botanical kingdoms. And I believe that's our ecological function, right? That, we tend to think of, our own life purpose and kind of what we're put here on this earth to do from within the perspective of ourselves. But I believe we all have an ecological function as well. And from my perspective, the ecological function of the herbalist is to be a bridge between the world and the earth, the human kingdom and the plant kingdom, because the plants need us, right? Not everyone in the world wants to be an herbalist or a healer, right? But everyone in the world has healing work to do. And so it's our job and our duty to understand the language of the plants, to understand the language of the human organism, and be able to translate between them so that we're able to weave together the consciousness, the intelligence, the chemistry of plants into the human body, psyche, and soul to produce a therapeutic benefit. So you got to know how to work with people, right? The third way that you can develop your competence as an herbalist is really starting to understand the process of administration and formulation, right? Remedy selection. So you know your herbs holistically, you know the people holistically. How do you bring them together, right? How do you determine what the best remedies to give to a person are? And that really requires having a knowledge of how to bring plants together into a formula that's going to address the wholeness of the person. So we can find herbs that, looking at formulation strategies and how when you combine one herb with another herb, it creates a whole that's greater than the sum of the parts. And that there's certain ways of formulating plants together that will match and be very specific for every element of what's going on within a person's life to address their wholeness. So you got to really have some skills in understanding administration and formulation. Do you give them a tea, a decoction, an infusion, a powder, a fomentation, a tincture, a spagyric, right? What's the form of the medicine that you're going to give them, and how are you going to combine those plants together? Not just in a mishmash, kitchen sink formula, just throw a whole bunch of respiratory herbs for the respiratory infection and hope that it's going to work. We don't want to be hope herbalists. We want to be knowledgeable, strategic herbalists, and understanding the principles of administration of botanical medicines is a critical element of developing your competence on your plant path. And as you start to integrate those three things, right? Learning your herbs holistically, understanding how to work with people, and knowing the administration and formulation of herbs, this starts to build this body of knowledge within you where you understand the language of plants and people and their integration point so that you have the know-how, so that when someone comes to you with a problem, that you're going to have the understanding and know-how for what to do, and therefore you're going to be more confident in yourself. So there's three other ways that I think you can start to integrate and strengthen your confidence as an herbalist. And one of the first things is to just start helping people, right? And starting to help people with those small things. I've known so many herbalists that, they have so much training, so much skills. They've been to tons of workshops and retreats and conferences and read dozens and dozens of books, and they really know their stuff. And maybe they have a friend that has a cough or something, and they like hesitate, they hold back, they don't put themselves out there to help them because they're unsure of themselves. And there's kind of this blockage that can sometimes develop within people where they don't put themselves out there because they feel like they need that next piece of information. But the truth is that the next piece of information that they need isn't found in a book or a video or a workshop or a conference or a retreat. It's in experience. There comes a point where book knowledge and intellectual knowledge of herbalism only gets you so far. And the next level of your training really necessitates you to start working with people. And I always say it's best to start with those small things, right? Maybe the cough or the cold or the flu or the hard time sleeping at night or the fatigue during the day or the stress and anxiety, right? Some of those things that generally are much more straightforward and simple to work with, and you just start helping people, and all of a sudden they start feeling better. Wow, I'm sleeping better at night. Or yeah, that cough cleared up really quick. And all of a sudden you're starting to see that the herbs you're giving them are helping them. And that is one of the best ways. I mean, to me, that's the ultimate best way to build your confidence as an herbalist, is to get just those small wins. And that's the second piece, is that small success builds your confidence. And really, to me, there's no such thing as a small success, because you're healing someone, and that's no small thing. But the more that you can start to give people simple remedies, simple formulas to help some of their common complaints and conditions that they struggle with in their life, it just really starts to instill this strength in yourself and strength in your confidence as a plant practitioner. And the third piece, and to me this is one of the most important pieces here, is that you have to learn to trust in the medicine. You know, the way I see it is that oftentimes when people lack confidence as an herbalist, while on the surface it seems like that they don't have confidence in themselves, I would actually argue that on a deeper, maybe subconscious level, that it's actually a lack of confidence in the plants, that there's a lack of faith and trust and belief in the power and potency of herbal medicines. And this is a really, really important point. So I want you to really take this in, because one of the most important things for people, for those of us walking the plant path, is that we have to have an incredibly deep level of trust in the medicines that we work with. And because how can we expect the person coming to us asking for help to trust in us and to trust in the bottle or the baggie of plants that you give them? How can we expect them to trust in it if we don't trust in it? When we're working with people, there's kind of this whole invisible dynamic at play where you really want to develop trust amongst your clients. Because the level of which a client will trust you is the level of which they're going to open up and share the critical pieces of information that are going to enable you to best serve them. But they're not going to open those things up if they don't sense on this subconscious level that they can trust you. And they're not going to sense on the subconscious level that they can trust you if you don't trust in the plants that you're giving them. And so one of the biggest ways to get over this is to go deep into your remedies, right? To heal yourself through the plants. And this is one of the core pillars of evolutionary herbalism, which is know thyself or heal thyself. That the only way that we can provide transformational levels of healing for the people that we serve is that if we ourselves have received the transformational healing properties of the plants within our own lives. The level of depth that we're able to be of service to people out in the world, the depth of the healing that we can provide is totally dependent on the depth of healing that we've gone through within ourselves through the plants. And when your whole life has been, and maybe some of you have experienced this, I'd love to hear about it in the comment section below. It's like, as herbalists, I think there's always a point on our plant path where we're deeply touched by a medicine. that we find that remedy, that herb, that plant, that root, leaf, flower, bark, or seed that transforms us, right? That changes our life. Maybe it saves our life, right? And when we're touched by a plant in that way, it changes who we are. And we have this incredibly deep level of respect and reverence and belief and trust and faith in the medicines that we work with because we've experienced that level of transformational healing. So I wanted to share this with you because these are some of the things that I see are roadblocks to people becoming a practicing herbalist, to actually putting yourself out there to be of service to the world through the healing power of plants. And I really hope that this resonates with you and that hopefully it speaks to where you're at on your plant path. Maybe you need to work on developing your competence. Maybe you need to work more with developing your confidence. And I think no matter where we're at on our plant path, we can always strive to learn more. We can always strive to grow more. We can always strive to learn more about the plants that we work with. We can always learn more about ourselves and refine and develop that inner game so that we can move out into the world and provide the healing that is so desperately needed at this time. So I'd love to hear about where you're at in your plant path. Do you feel like you need to develop your confidence and competence within yourself? What are the things that you find are holding you back from furthering your growth and development as an herbalist? I'd love to hear about it. Post it in the comment section underneath this video, and whether you're watching this on YouTube or on our blog or listening to it on the podcast, feel free to leave us a comment, a review. Feel free to share this on any of your social media channels. If you know of another plant practitioner that would benefit from this teaching here. And I just want to thank you so much for joining me here on this most recent issue of the Evolutionary Herbalism blog and on the Plant Path podcast. And I just want to mention to you as well that very soon we're going to be opening up enrollment for our totally free Vitalist Herbalism mini course. This mini course is totally focused on getting you to that next level of depth and precision and refinement of your understanding of people and plants through the lens of true holistic herbalism. This mini course is all about getting you to get strategic in your approach to plant medicine and making sure that you're approaching your studies and your practice of herbal medicine from a truly holistic perspective and making sure you don't fall into the trap of allopathic herbalism. So if you're not on our newsletter list, be sure to sign up on our website at evolutionaryherbalism.com. We're going to be sending out some emails very soon here for the Vitalist Herbalism mini course. Be sure to check it out. We only open up this free course once a year, so this is going to be your opportunity to get that super in-depth training for free. I hope to see you in there. It's one of my favorite mini courses that we offer, and so I hope you'll tune into that. And once again, thank you so much for being here with me, and I will see you sometime soon further down on our plant path. And until then, take care and be well.